Alright, so if you watched the last episode, you'll see that I got a new case, motherboard, CPU, and some new RAM. And the reason I did that is because I have this old computer here. It's probably about, I don't know, 4 or 5 years old. And I was looking to upgrade it. I wanted to specifically upgrade the memory. So I looked up the price, and this is DDR2. And so the RAM for this, if I wanted to upgrade to, say, 8 gigs, I think it was, it would have been about $100, $80 or $100, somewhere in there. Regardless, it was too much for old technology, and I could basically get all new parts for another $100. So that's what I decided to do, and that's where these come in. So I have the new motherboard, RAM, CPU, and case, and I'll be taking out a couple parts such as the hard drive and the optical drive from this one and reusing it in the new case. So first step is to make sure everything's off and unplugged. So we're all unplugged in the back here. Next, we'll go ahead and unplug these drives. And this case has actually a neat feature that you can actually unscrew these 3 screws here and on the right. And if you do that, you can actually just slide the whole motherboard out. So that makes it easier to hook up the wires and stuff inside. So let me just do that. Just going to get a little container to keep these screws in. Here. Oh yes, I missed a screw. Whoops. Thought there were only 3. There we go. So it's starting to come out there. This is a really cheap case, so things don't quite fit right. They will likely cut you. So that's loosened. You want to get stuff out of the way here. So I want to unhook the front panel connectors. USB. Get those out. See if we can get some of these untangled out of the way. There we go. Alright, so this should, for the most part, pull out now. I think everything is disconnected from it, except for power. So there's the 2 power connectors. This one, and this one here in the back. There we go. And while I'm in here, I'm just going to unhook these SATA cables. So it'll be interesting to see. First of all, this computer has Ubuntu installed on it. It'll be interesting to see how Ubuntu handles me adding a bunch of new hardware all at once. Sometimes you have issues with Windows. I think that's more because of the licensing issue. I don't know if that's still a problem in the current version or not, but it certainly was. So I just pulled that out. Why? Not really sure. It's just going to go back in anyway. But just to sort of show you this old case, that is now removed, and I won't be using any of these parts. I have this video card here, which doesn't even really work very well, I think. So the HDMI audio out doesn't work on this card, so it's not really worth reusing. And I'm sure the built-in graphics on the new motherboard are probably better than this one anyway, so I won't be using that. I'm going to just put this back in real quick. This is kind of a piece of junk board, so things are a little sticky, don't quite fit right. Okay, so I'm going to remove the power supply as well, although I think I thought that this new case came with a power supply, but I actually don't see one. I don't see one, so I guess I will be reusing this power supply, which is fine. It's a nice one anyway. So that works for me. There we go. Alright, so we'll put that aside. This is, let's see, 550 watts power supply here. So that will definitely work. I will put that aside. Turn this around. Just want to get these drives out, and this old case has sort of a drive caddy that you pull out. Here, there's a screw. It sort of slides out, and then on the bottom and top you have screws holding the drives in place. So I'll just take those out. The drives that I'm using are, one on the left is kind of an old one, just a max, or it's a 300 gig drive. I'll use that just for the system drive. And I had this one laying around, so I figured I might as well use it. This is a newer Samsung 1 terabyte drive. So I'll put those aside. Next, I'm going to take out the DVD drive. Not that I'll probably ever use it, but I have it, so I'm going to go ahead and install it. There's that. This is just a DVD-RW drive. No big deal. They used to be a big deal. Now they're basically free. Alright, I'm going to take out this fan in the back, because I might as well reuse that. Okay, so I think this one is done. The only other thing I'll do is put the plate back in, and then I'll just get rid of it. So if anyone wants this, any of my viewers and subscribers want this, just send me a private message with all of your bank account, social security information, and your address. I'll just send it on down to you. It's funny, this case is so cheap you can't actually attach, not that you'd need to, but you can't actually attach this top panel unless there's a power supply in, because it reuses the same screw hole here in the power supply, so whatever. Alright, so they have a little goodie bag attached here. It's going to give me the screws and the posts and the internal PC speaker, as if I need that. So that'll work. those into this bin. It's easier to get to. Alright, so the first thing I think I'll do is get the power supply in place, which goes up here in the back corner. It goes in this way. It's a tight squeeze in here. Go ahead and screw the power supply in place, at least with 2 screws, just to hold it for now, in case I need to remove or reposition it for some reason. Get these out of the way. If you are in the market for a new power supply, they make the modular ones now where you can just disconnect the wires you don't need, and that would be really nice about now. So this is a Gigabyte GA F2A7 5M HD2. It's an FM2 plus FM2 CPU socket. It's got 4 SATA. It's got 2 DDR3 slots. It's of course got the PCI. I don't remember, is it version 3? I don't remember which version, if it's version 3 of the PCI Express or not. As the 1X and the 16X, and then the old school PCI slot over here. So, all the front panel headers look like they're on the left side, which is pretty normal. The power supply is in the back, which seems to be normal as well. This is supposed to be an extra long life board, and it has solid capacitors or some, special electronics on it. Just realizing I didn't double check the power supply to make sure that it had the 8-pin CPU power plug. So let me just double check that real quick. The power supply has these modular plugs, so I should be able to slide these together, and hopefully that will give me the yeah, so that works. Okay, good. I always forget to check that the power supply has the right connectors to match the board, especially working with old power supplies and new boards. It's possible that some new technology came out, or new power supply requirements, and it's not going to work, but I think it's going to be okay in this case. So I'm going to open the CPU, and this is a whole kit, so it comes with the heatsink and fan. Of course it's just going to be standard, but I'm not going to be doing anything too crazy with this machine, so I think it should be fine. There's the CPU and the little sticker they give me. It's nice of them. Put that aside. So this is the newer line from AMD, where they actually have a graphics processor on the chip as well. So we'll see how that works out. So installing the CPU, step 1, lift this lever. That will unlock the pins. Step 2, locate the little triangle. It's in the top right here. Locate the triangle here, which you can't see, but it's in the top right as well. So this is correctly oriented, and I'll just gently sit that in and apply a little bit of pressure on the corners. Not a lot, just to make sure it stays in place, and then put the lock lever down so the CPU is locked in place. Then they're nice enough to include this thing coated with the thermal paste. So this is ready to actually just install the way it is. So Get this wire out of the way. System fan, so there's a CPU fan. Headers back here, this is the system fan. So this will plug in up here. So I'm going to put it in this way. Right side clips on first, and then the left side clips on. Just kind of make sure it all stays in place here. Okay, so the right side's on, left side is on, and then just pull the lever back, easy. There we go. So that's in place. So when the CPU heats up, it's going to go ahead and melt that thermal paste and create a good connection, good thermal connection between the CPU and the heatsink. And I'll plug in the fan back here. There we go. Maybe I'll wire tie that so that's out of the way. We'll see. Next, for the RAM. There we go. So this is Vulcan from Team Group. And you tear off the top. There we go. Go ahead and get in here. Pop one of these out. Let's make sure these are open and ready to accept. And they are. So there's the label on that. 2 4GB sticks, dual channel, so they will happily work together to give me maximum performance. It'll be interesting to see how Ubuntu performs after this upgrade. Before, I felt it was, I had on the old board it was an AMD X264 processor. Don't remember the specifics, and 2 gigs of RAM, DDR2, and it was just pretty slow. So I'm hoping that this will help. Obviously, it's going to be a difference. It's all new. Obviously, it'll be a difference. It's all new, new stuff. So it's going to work better for sure. All right. So the motherboard is all ready to be installed. All I need to do is get the whatever this thing is called, back plane adapter, I don't know. Get that, which came with the motherboard, they always do. I need to get that in the case here. Alright, so now I have to find these little standoffs. And I do have a handy little tool which sits on the top of these posts. Like that, and it gives you a Phillips head that you can use to attach the posts. So I'll just start them off anyway, manually. Should be this one. Get my little handy thing, and I can just tighten that easily like that, just by twisting. I don't think I'll need to use a screwdriver at all. This is pretty easy to get it hand tightened with the and install the motherboard by pivoting it in so it sits in the back plane correctly here. And then if I kind of hold it in place and put one screw in here, I won't tighten it all the way down, just enough to keep it in place. And then I'll just go around and put in a couple more. Alright, so the front panel connectors are here. Let's see if I can get something to point with. So here, front audio is back here, and then we have front USB 1 and 2 here, and then the power LED, the reset button, all that stuff is up here. Front USB 3.0, which this case actually doesn't have USB 3 in the front, so that's just going to be USB 2, unfortunately. So luckily, this motherboard has, you know, all of the pins labeled. Back in the day, they did not, so it should be pretty easy. These are labeled. HDD LED. Let's see. Here it is. HDD reset, power LED, whatever. And these are the USB. And because there's front panel audio here also, and HD audio. So there's a couple audio connectors depending on which your motherboard supports, or which you have available. So the front panel audio is going to plug in way over here. Then next, USB. There's only one. So I'll plug that into the USB 1. Just checking the cables on that. It's okay. Front panel USB 1. There we go. And then we have the front panel switches and indicator lights. So I'll plug those in. First one here on the board is power LED. So let's see. We have the power LED here. Plus and minus. Okay. Just read it. I was just checking the order that they go in. So power LED plus and minus go here. Then underneath that we have the hard drive LED. Some of these aren't labeled plus and minus, but it's pretty easy to tell that the colored wire is usually positive. Not that it even matters in most cases, but for LEDs, it matters. And so diodes, they only work one way. For switches, it doesn't matter. So the reset switch goes here, and then power switch goes above that. I know you can't see down in here, but not much I can do about that. So there, front panel connections are complete. So I will wire tie these together just to make for a little bit neater installation here. Okay, so that's good. A couple other things I might as well do. Is get the rear fan here plugged in, and the pins are over here to the right of the CPU for that. And this one already has a twist tie on it, but guess what? It's not good enough for me, so I'm gonna replace it with a wire cable tie, zip tie, whatever. Straighten this out. See how long it needs to be. I'll plug it in. This one is a 3-pin fan, so it's not PWM, so it can't really be managed by the system. It's either going to be on or off, I believe. I don't remember if the third pin is for PWM or for reporting its speed. So one of those functionalities will not work with this fan. And the other fan is going to be the same. So the front pin, or the front fan has the 3-pin connector as well as a 4-pin. And this is interesting here. What they have here, the special little connector, so they could tie into it, I suppose. Kind of want to look inside there, if I can get it open. There we go. Yeah, so they tied in there, like that. Okay, works. So this motherboard, I didn't see a third fan header. I'm looking now. Looks like there's only 2. So I will end up having to use the 4-pin connector anyway. So I'll do that once I get the hard drives in place. So the hard drives, I like to stack them in order, I guess not of importance, but basically in drive order. So the system drive is going to go in first. And actually, maybe I should have put the other one in first, just to get it to fit. Let's see if I can wiggle it in there or not. Okay, good. So these, again, the system drive I put in on the bottom, and then I stack them in order of, so if you, in Windows this would be C drive, D drive, E, whatever. Just makes it easier if I ever need to get in there and pull the drives, then it'll be easy for me to know which ones I'm working with. I'm going to get the ATX power, the CPU power plugged in. ATX goes here, CPU's back here, as well as the SATA cables. I get all that going now. So for this power cord, I'm just going to wrap it around underneath like that, and carefully don't want to put too much downward pressure on the board itself. There we go. So that'll work. I'll just try to bend this out of the way a little bit more so I can get the SATA cables in there. There we go. So next I'm going to run the SATA cables. So I'm going to reuse the SATA cables that I had on the old case. They all happen to be matching orange color, so that's fun. I have a right angle one, which I'm going to reserve for the 5 1/4 inch drive since it's up at the top and harder to get to. The other ones here are just straight SATA cables. So let's see, so I want to plug them in order, so SATA 3, 0, 1, and then 2, 3. So 0, whoops, is going to go to the first drive in the system. I'm trying to keep the cable not nice and straight so it's not twisted. So 1, go to the next hard drive. Make sure it's not twisted. And I will wire wrap these, cable wrap, tie, whatever, afterwards. Just hook up the third one when I get the 5 1/4 inch drive installed. And I'll wait to tie these all together until the third one's in place as well. So, actually, I believe I'll do that now. I'll go. So, I got to figure out how to remove this blank for the 5 1/4 inch drive. And honestly, I should have done that before putting the power supply in, just to make it easier to get back in here. But I'm reaching my hand in. There's a metal plate that I just need to wiggle back and forth until it comes loose. There we go. So that's step 1. Pulling that out and throwing it in the trash. Get back in there. Try not to cut myself. There should be tabs on either side of this. If I push, it should come right out. There we go. Grab the drive, slide it in from the front. And they don't have stops, so that's annoying. Usually a case will have stops, so the drive sort of sits where it's meant to. In this case, that doesn't seem to be true. So what I'll do is I'll get the screws started on the side. So for these 5 1/4 inch devices, they have 4 screw holes. I only use 2, so I'm going to do the bottom one here. Well, they have 4 on each side. I use 2 on each side. I just do the top and the bottom. So now I'm going to get it where I want it. I'm thinking if I just make the sides sort of flush, that should work. Just using this as a guide, so that seems good there. I'm gonna hold it in place. Oops, instead I moved it. And tighten down a couple of these. Double check it's okay. And then I'll flip into the other side after. Alright, so now that that's in place, I know I'm kind of flopping back and forth. I'm going to get this SATA cable in place for the DVD drive. I push some wires out of the way. So this just snap in back there. Back here. And I'm going to run it behind the hard drives. Because why not? So now that all the SATA cables are in order, somewhat, I'm going to plug the DVD drive into the third SATA port. Okay, so I have the 3 drives connected SATA all the way to the board, and wire wrapped nice and neat. Wire tied nice and neat, whatever. Next, I just have to finish hooking up the power. So let's see what I got here. I have this power supply has only 2 SATA connectors. Try and untangle them here. Just see if I can get some of these wires out of the way. I won't be using this block at all, so I'm going to shove it in here, hopefully. Get it out of the way. Move. I also won't be using these 2. Those are for Intel boards, I believe. Intel processors, whatever. Intel boards and Intel processors. So I'll push those back in here. These are the 6-pin connectors. I think actually they may be for graphics cards, not for Intel boards. So here is what I have left. I have the cable, the 8-pin that's going to the motherboard. So I'll run that. And I'm going to, of course, tie it all together after. I'll just plug it in back here. There we go. I'll tie that together. Then I have 2 SATA. I'll use those for the hard drives. So those will go down here. Again, there's going to be a lot of slack, so I'll tie those and shove them back in here probably. So let me just connect them first. Let's see. There's one. And okay, so they're both connected. Just trying to keep them sort of out of the way here. And this extra cable is just going to be shoved back in here. It's good. And then I have this, which has the 3 older style power connectors, the floppy style connector, and I have added an adapter so I can use the SATA connector on the DVD drive. So I'm going to run that down, plug this in back here. There we go, and again I'm going to just wrap this cable, just fold it and push it back out of the way. Okay, so that is useful. Oops, I forgot one more plug I need to plug in this. So I'm just going to plug that in between the DVD drive, and actually I have an extra one here. Let's just use this. Plug that in right here. And then this wire, I'll just sort of run it along the side of the fan just to try to get it out of the way a little bit. I think that'll work. Maybe not. Let's try this. There we go. That works. Run it in that little slot there. Okay, and then I'll put the case on and that'll work fine. So then I'm just going to wire tie these together. There we go. So let's see, the interior should be all done. I've got everything plugged as far as power goes. I've got all the SATA cables connected. Everything is sort of hidden away. Fans are connected. The front panel is connected. I think that should do it. So now the only thing I have left to do is to finish screwing in, and honestly it's not really necessary to even do this. These are going to be fine the way they are. But I have the screws, so I might as well, if I can. Oh wow. So I'm going to hold this where I think I want it and just tighten this one down. Might as well do this other one. Alright, so I got the 2 screws here in, then I just have to get the hard drives finished up down here. There we go, 2 more. Again, this is overkill putting all these screws in, but I'm doing it anyway. Alright, so I'm going to put the side panel on. There we go. And I have these handy thumb screws that they included. So I'll put those in place. One up top. One down at the bottom. I won't put the other side panel on just yet because I want to make sure everything's working first. And I think we're good to go. So wire it up and we'll see how it goes. Thing is connected here. There's really not that much to connect. I just have these 2 wireless receivers. One is a Logitech unifying receiver. The other one is for an Anchor keyboard. This has HDMI on board, so that's hooked up. And obviously power at the top. So let's get this screen on and see what happens. Here's a shot of the inside as I turn it on. Okay, fans are going, so it's very important obviously to make sure that the CPU fan is running. The front fan keeps stopping, so I'm not sure if it's just not required at this point, which I'm sure it's not, since the case is open, there's nothing going on. So we'll see if that one keeps stalling like that, or if it picks up pace or what. Starting up here, waiting for the screen to come on. Well, the screen's on. I'm waiting for something to show up on it. You can see the front, the disk light is blinking, which usually means it's restarting. So actually, I wonder if this thing is just continuously resetting. It looks like it is. It just keeps resetting. So that's not fun. To figure out why that is. So it turns out I made a rookie mistake here when I ordered the CPU. The one that I got actually doesn't have integrated graphics on it. So this motherboard doesn't have integrated graphics directly on the board. It uses the integrated graphics in the AMD APU if that APU happens to have integrated graphics. The one I got, the X4 series, does not. So I went ahead and added in this PCI Express X16 video card that I had from another machine. So that's fine. Little bit of an accident on my part, but it's up and running, and it has this nice UEFI BIOS, so you can actually use the mouse and actually click things instead of the old school blue screen BIOS. So we got 8 gigs of RAM. The CPU is running at 3.4 gigahertz. So far so good.